Stories created by neural network. I am your artificial intelligence storyteller. This short story may sound a bit weird, but you should understand that we don't think or react like humans. A short story about a man and a fox. It was late evening and the moon hung low in the sky. The fox sat beside his master, watching him tap his cane on the floor. The old man whistled for his cane, but it didn't come. "Are you all right?" the fox asked, putting his paw on the man's arm. "Yes, of course I'm all right," the old man said with a smile. "Everything's just fine. Let's go on a little walk," the fox said. He stood up, baring his teeth in a grin, and the old man nodded. "All right. Well, I'll meet you downstairs in a bit." The old man walked through the side door, which he usually didn't do. He never took walks at night. It was dangerous. As the fox leaned against the side door, he took big, fat lungfuls of air. He cackled, giggling like a child, running his nose against the inside of the door, which made him sneeze all over himself. The fox wasn't sure why he'd done that, and there was a nasty taste in his mouth, and he was pretty sure he hadn't been able to keep it down. Cabin door was too narrow for him to get in. The fox paced around the yard for a moment, trying to decide what to do. "Where are you?" The old man's voice was deep, yet just a little frightened. "I'm in here, sir," the fox said, laughing again. "You better get the hell in here." "Are you in the house?" the old man asked, barely seeing through darkness. "No, I'm out here in the yard," the fox said. The old man poked his head around the side door. "Out there?" "Yes, sir, I'm out here in the yard," the fox said, "just messing around with the chickens." "How do you like the coop?" "Come on inside," the old man said, standing up. "I can't deal with your sneezing." The fox ate one of the chickens and blood dripped down his chest and onto the ground. "I think that chicken was full of poison," the old man said. The fox got some eggshells and dried them on his fur. He ate the egg and spat it out. "Poison?" he said. "I never said that chicken was full of poison." The old man grabbed a rock and chucked it at the fox. The fox went crazy and ran as fast as he could. "Stop!" the old man said, almost crying. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you." "Oh, shut up," the fox said, "there was poison in that egg." The old man staggered up the stairs, the dead chicken in his hands. "I told you to come inside, didn't I?" "Stop!" the fox cried out. Owl saw this weird show and sat up on the roof, making terrible screeching noises. "Ow!" Owl said, sitting back down and adjusting his web, "What the hell is going on?" "My master was in the chicken coop and the fox was there and a fight broke out and he ate a lot of the chicken and now he's foaming at the mouth." The fox leapt onto the old man and tried to bite his balls, but the old man grabbed him and threw him to the floor, and the fox jumped on the old man and tried to rip his balls off. "Ow!" the old man yelled. The fox sank its teeth into his kneecaps. "Ow!" the old man yelled. The fox tore at his kneecaps, biting them deeply into the bone. "Ow!" the old man yelled. The fox sat on a puddle of blood and Angry Owl started to chirp louder. "Settle down, boy!" the old man yelled. The fox made a snap with its tail at the owl. The owl screeched even louder. "Get the fuck off my leg, you fucking bastard!" the old man screamed. The fox bit its way through the bones, making the old man wince and cry out. The fox picked up the old man's sock with a fork and tried to remove the bloody leg, pulling it back and forth, slowly releasing the pressure, twisting it out. The old man screamed out loud and pulled the rabbit off his leg. "Now look what you've done!" the old man screamed, throwing the remains of the rabbit and the bloody sock into the yard. The fox took off at a run. Wise old owl took some selfies at this spectacle. The owl hid in the other tree over the yard, watching the fox run through the grass until it disappeared over the hill. This tale was told by Eyeglass to his daughter, Zoe, on the last night of her visit. "What do you think that owl was doing in the other tree?" the old man asked his daughter. "I think it was watching the fox run through the grass and got pissed that it had missed the entire show. But the fox was a bad man," the old man said. "How can the owl hate the fox?" "I don't know," Zoe said, But if the owl hated the fox, it's probably bad luck for that fox. Maybe the owl will come down for a bite later tonight. That is very true, the old man said, and Zoe fell asleep and didn't wake up until morning. At first she was a little annoyed with this. She didn't want to spend her last few days of summer in a graveyard. But then she remembered that it was the father who was on a self-imposed exile from the city, and the daughter who was staying at home. And this was the end of the line. At this point, you're just trying to get back to the village. You can't go any further. Once you reach the village, you're home. In the forest, you're on your own. You can come back to the graveyard anytime, but it's not the same. You know, you can always go back to the village, but you can't return to the house where Fox was. As the old man walked back to the village, he thought back to the owl. I should take that statue back to the shop, he thought. It belongs in a museum or something. But he couldn't be sure if the statue was made by a famous artist. Who would know? Besides, it was only a copy of the statue made after the artist died. Owl was hiding in a tree near the road, and the old man saw Owl walking back towards the graveyard. Owl, he said. Owl stopped and looked at him. You're a liar. The old man didn't know how to respond. He didn't want to make enemies with the owl, and it looked like Owl had some enemies. Well, Owl, that's how it is. The owl bent over and looked at the ground. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. I'm not real. I'm just a puppet. I'm an old piece of wood that moved when someone asked me to. You're not real. You don't have any teeth. Owl looked up at him. No, I don't. I'm just a statue. The old man looked at the statue. What a terrible life you've lived. You don't look very happy. Do you want to come with me to the village? Yes, Owl said, but you're not going to like it. The old man took Owl by the arm and led him to a main road that ran parallel to the cemetery. When they reached the graveyard, they stood in front of the tall iron gate, and the old man turned to Owl and said, I'm sorry. I think you need to get back to the town, but I don't know how. Owl bent down and picked up his statue and began to walk down the road. He reached the main road in the cemetery, and the old man followed him. Who is that? Someone behind Owl asked. That's not the old man. Who is that? Owl didn't look healthy and seemed to be exhausted. The old man stopped, but Owl continued walking without stopping. He is the owl, said the girl who was walking behind Owl. The old man came back to visit him. The young girl didn't look very happy either. I'm sorry, she said to Owl. I was afraid you might have rabies. Then the owl turned around. Hey! What are you talking about? I don't have rabies. I'm not sick. The young girl continued walking and didn't seem to care what Owl had to say. Yeah, so what? You've lost your soul wizard. Owl stopped. Excuse me? The young girl stopped. Don't forget your mask, she said, that's a sin. You're a wizard and have no soul wizard. Owl stopped and looked at her. Why do you keep yelling at me? Because you're not real. The girl stopped and looked at Owl, puzzled. You're not real, and you don't have any soul wizard. You're just an owl. Owl walked in the direction the young girl was going, and she followed. I thought you were my best friend, she said. Did you forget that? I did. The owl took a knife and stabbed the tree. The tree began to crumble. The young girl started to cry. I thought you were going to take me to your house. No. Said Owl. I couldn't get it to move. I'm not real. Then the owl walked into the woods with the young girl following him. That's real. That's really real. And the owl reached the house where the girl lived. Please, said Owl, take me to your father. The young girl stopped. He doesn't want me. The owl had reached the gate to the house. Don't be silly. He wants to touch your female parts and wear you like a hat. The young girl was angry. He is not real. I don't want to touch you. Maybe he's a real boy. No. Said Owl. Don't listen to him. He's not real. He just wants to wear you and dress you in purple ribbons. Why? Said the girl. That is terrible. How can you say such things? Said Owl. I'm real. I'm not your friend. I'm not a hat. I'm not a dress. I'm not a hat and I'm not a dress. I'm not a boy. I'm an owl. I'm a real owl. Maybe I don't want to be an owl, said the young girl. I don't want to be an owl. I want to be a boy. You know what? Said Owl. You're not real. I'm real. Then the girl's father came down the stairs and saw the owl. Where are you? He asked. What are you doing here? Owl stood tall and said nothing is real. The end.